What's happening, YouTube? Woo! What's going on, guys? A little chill in the air today. I like it. I like it a lot. Taking my dog on a walk here. Figured I'd come directly to you, the people. Have a little talk about hell. Because as it turns out, hell is a place on earth. And people make it themselves. And I got a very nice example of that this morning. I got a text message from a friend of mine. And they told me that I had to go on Twitter to attack Jessica Ramos. Now, mind you, I didn't know who Jessica Ramos was. But, she followed that up with some information. And as it turns out, Jessica Ramos is, I guess, a senator or a member of the House of Representatives in New York State. And Jessica is currently experiencing a hell of her own making. And you'll see why I say hell really is a place on earth. Because around November of 2019, before the coronavirus world, the big story in New York was legislators were trying to have unvaccinated children removed from school unless their parents would agree to have them shot up with toxic chemicals that some people have alleged cause autism. I'm not saying that, but some people have alleged vaccinations cause autism. And interestingly enough, if there were like a control group, like, I don't know, where could we find a control group that the corporate media and big pharma wouldn't want you to know about it? They try to hide it from you. A vaccination control group. Where, oh, where could the control group be? Oh, where could it be? Oh, the Amish. Well, as it turns out, about 1 in 10,000 Amish children have autism, allegedly. But it's about 1 in 25 boys of everyone else has autism, but nothing to see here. So anyway, New York State, my dog always interrupts my streams, but in fairness, I'm only out here for him, so. Well, I'm out here for him, but he's out here for you, the people. Wait a second, buddy. Hold on. You're interrupting my stream. I'm talking about the Amish and autism. All right. Where were we? Yeah, so anyway, if only there was a control group that we could compare and contrast with to say, what's with these claims of vaccines and autism? So allegedly, 1 in 10,000 Amish have autism. So you had this senator in New York, November 2019, Jessica Ramos, and she wanted to have children who were not vaccinated removed from public school if their parents refused to vaccinate. Now, of course, these parents think for themselves, so they were like, I don't know, look at the Amish. I don't know how I feel about this vaccines, people have their reasons. Some are like, hey, isn't mercury a known neurotoxin? Isn't that bad for your brain? What about aluminum? Should we not shoot that directly into children? These are what I don't say this. This is what people were saying. Some people, and call me a crazy religious person, aren't comfortable with genetically modified aborted fetal cells that have been replicated nonstop since the 1960s being injected into their body. Some people are not comfortable with that, but New York Congresswoman Jessica Ramos, she didn't care about any of this. And in November 2019, she was one of the voices leading the push to have these children, unvaccinated children, removed from public school. Now, this is what I remember. I said Corona's a gift. These parents might not have realized it at the time. It's even more apparent now. But as I told them, I said, listen, if you have to pull your children out of school, that is a gift, because the public school system is a public indoctrination system, and the only objective of that school system is to turn your child into a slave. So if they force you to pull your child out, well, God bless. That is a gift. That is a gift. Needless to say, anyway. So, November 2019, and that passed in New York. And the law passed, and now children that were in public school had to be vaccinated. Now, of course, these parents didn't just lay down and take it. They said, okay. They pulled their children out of school. And Jessica Ramos had no problem with this. Of course, by doing that, she set the precedent that children could be denied schooling if the medical establishment decided that they were a risk to public health. Jessica Ramos had no problem. She said, oh, that's fine. These unvaccinated children, they're a threat to public health. Let's force them out of school. Fast forward 1 year later. Here we are, November 2020. Oh, what do we have, Jessica? Well, you go on her Twitter today, and you see her complaining that it's just not fair. Mike Miller, what's up, brother? I've been doing my streams really the last 10 days. Haven't caught you live. I was just making fun of people who make their own hell, like New York Senator. I didn't know who she was until today, but I get a kick out of it, and it's a nice teachable moment. But New York Congresswoman Jessica Ramos led the charge in November 2019 to have unvaccinated children denied the ability to go to public school if their parents didn't agree to inject them with toxic chemicals known as vaccinations. And now, today, November 2020, she was tweeting all morning and all yesterday how unfair it is that now her child is being denied the ability to go to public school for public health reasons. So now when it's her child, she has a problem with it. But when it was everyone else's child, she had no problem. And she made the argument. This is what she said. She said, I understand public health, but I'm not in a position. Mind you, this is a congresswoman who makes a government salary and government benefits, and it's not even illegal for them to do insider trading. Yeah, that's right. In the United States of America, people in Congress are legally allowed to participate in insider trading on Wall Street. But if a regular person like you or I did that, we would go to jail. Yeah, land of the free and the home of the indoctrinated. 'Cause I'm proud to be an American, where at least they make songs about me being free. And I'm proud to give up my rights if you say I'll get a virus. So I will mask up here today and go to the grocery store. There ain't no doubt I love this place. God bless the USA. The 90% efficacy rate vaccine only manages symptoms. Yeah, I mean, vaccines are, I think we all know what they are at this point. I don't want to get too much into it, but the point is Jessica Ramos created this hell because she set the precedent that it's perfectly fine to deny children a public education as long as they're deemed a health to public threat. They're deemed a threat to public health. So now, Jessica's not happy that her child can't go to public school. And here's what she had the gall to say. She said, on her government salary with her government benefits and her insider trading, she said, well, she understands you still get the virus, but it blocks the symptoms. I mean, there's so much to say about the virus. I don't even want to get into the virus, but let's just say I'm not scared of the virus. But she had the gall to say, well, she understands that, public health, but she's just not in a position where she could homeschool her child right now. She just can't do it. Oh, so all of those mothers and fathers 1 year earlier who you told, well, too bad, you could just homeschool your child, they were in a position to just drop everything they were doing and homeschool, but you, Congresswoman, for you, it's too much of a burden. You see, Jessica created a hell of her own making. She set the precedent. She was the cheerleader. She's probably a feminist, so I'm going to call her a cheerleader. She was a cheerleader, just rooting on the boys. She was like, go get him. Go get him. She was like, you take away those rights of those evil super spreaders who refuse to vaccinate. You take away their rights. And now a year later, when it's her rights being taken away, she don't like it so much. It's a hell of her own making. But the truth is, there's hells of our own making all around us. And we are seeing that every day and everywhere. Let's take the election, right? I don't really care for the politics. It's all one bird and two wings, and people, they think they're fighting for something, but the country always goes in the same direction. Although I will say, I like some of the things Trump got done. He pulled us out of the TPP. He didn't expand any wars in the Middle East. He allegedly tried to pull us out of some of those wars too, so I like some of the things he did. But ultimately, the country always goes in the same direction. But here's what you have happening, and this is the hell people create, right? So for the last few years, what have we heard? Racist, sexist, xenophobe. Trump is literally Hitler. He's rounding everyone up. This is the end of freedom, the end of democracy. You have this radical in office. Now, anyone with a semblance of discernment could see Trump is very far from a radical, waving rainbow flags around and taking on more debt than, I think he took on more debt than Obama. $6 trillion stimulus. He's far from a radical. But that's what they portrayed him as. And you get these leftists and they get all worked up and they're like, we have to do anything to get him out of office, right? Because he's this radical. He's like a 1980s Democrat, Trump. A 1980s Democrat. He's just another centrist politician who goes a little bit against the grain and is a little bit less controlled than people like Biden and Hillary. But, he still has his controllers. But they got all worked up. So they said, okay, all right. And this is like the people on the ground, right? Like you could say, oh, they stole the election. But the bottom line is there's people on the ground that have to do it. So they'll burn the ballots and there'll be full boxes of ballots or closets full of ballots that they didn't count. Or they'll rig the Dominion voting system and they'll do all these things they do, right? They'll say a pipe burst and they'll stop the counting of the election in Georgia so that they could pump in more ballots an hour later. All these things they do. And they do it because in their minds, they're stopping literally Hitler. So they're willing to sin, right? This sin creates hell. They're willing to lie. They're willing to cheat. They're willing to corrupt. Because in their mind, that corruption is justified to stop what they have deemed as evil. But sin is what's evil. Lying, cheating, manipulating, subverting. That's what's evil. So now they do this, and they might steal the election. You might get President Biden, another establishment figure, like always. But they create the hell they were originally afraid of, because they're doing this because they're trying to stop literally Hitler, right? Said, oh my God, we have to fix the ballots because we're stopping literally Hitler. They are creating the hell they feared. See, Trump isn't the racist, sexist, xenophobe they portrayed him to be, or they fear that he is. He's not a dictator. If he was a dictator, you couldn't say he's a dictator because you get your head cut off. It's like, 2 + 2 is 4, guy. If he was a dictator, the news couldn't have 90% negative coverage against him because they would be killed. That's how dictators work. So they were so afraid that he was this radical right-wing dictator that they are willing to disenfranchise the political right wing of America. You create your own hell. They're creating the very circumstances that allow a right-wing dictator to rise, because now you have right-wing America very disenfranchised, very upset, very angry. And they see their country being subverted by communism. They see that their borders are being opened up, are wide open, and they voted for a wall and they couldn't get that. And then you steal the election from them. Now you have created the circumstances where if someone comes along in 4 years and campaigns on rounding up communists, getting rid of communists, this is how you create the circumstances in which, like when you see, like, how could people have gotten behind Adolf Hitler in Germany? Well, the circumstances for that have to be created. So when you lie and steal and cheat and you call everyone Nazis for 4 straight years, you call everyone Nazis, you call everyone racist, you call everyone sexist and xenophobic, then you disenfranchise them and you steal their vote and you open their borders and you overrun their country. You steal their election. Now, when Duterte comes along, American Duterte, that's when the people vote for him. A hell of their own creation. See, their sin, their lack of discernment, allowed them to convince themselves that a 1980s Democrat, Donald Trump, was literally Hitler. And through their response to that, through their sin, their lying, their stealing, their manipulating, their cheating, their labeling, now they've created the circumstances where literally Hitler could rise. It's very fascinating, human nature and the role that sin plays in the world that we create. The world that we create. And that's why I wrote the book. Good bears always tell the truth. This whole thing has just been one big sales talk. The children's book that teaches children the moral pitfalls of lying. No, but in all seriousness, I did write the children's book, Good Bears Always Tell the Truth, and that is the core message behind it. You see, in the book, Little Bear goes to the park, and he's playing with all the other animals. Self-fulfilling prophecies. Right. And, you see it all around you. It's people create their own hells. And it could be with little things or big things, little lies or big lies. But you could see it on a macro level. You're like, oh, wait, they were so afraid of a right-wing authoritarian that they're now creating the circumstances that would actually make a right-wing authoritarian possible. Because, I mean, comparatively speaking, and like I think most people stuck in a two-party mindset or a left-right paradigm, I think they're mistaken. But comparatively speaking, left-wing people tend to be a little unhinged, and like they have a higher proclivity for violence, and right-wing people kind of lay down and take it. But if you abuse people enough and you put their back to a wall and make them desperate, they will latch on to the real guy that comes along and says, I'll solve your problem. A hell of their making. But yeah, I wrote Good Bears Always Tell the Truth. Geneva, what's up? They act before thinking, or so it seems. Yes, well, I find that most people I come across don't do a lot of thinking. People are emotional. They're emotional, and they have their worldview, and they latch on to confirmation bias. And then when you have these big mind control institutions, right, you take like a character like Trump. I like to call these people characters now because I think politics is a big show. But you take a character like Trump, and he says some rhetorically provocative things, but that's all by design for him to get more attention and to get elected. It's how you beat the system. It's how you play the system. But you say some provocative things, and like, all right, he says, when he came out and said Mexico's not sending their best, right? They're sending pedophiles and human traffickers and drug dealers, and then he says, and I assume some good people too. There's nothing inaccurate with that statement. There's nothing wrong with that statement. But now you have people that already had a proclivity to reject what Trump said, and then the media could twist that, and then they could say, oh my God, right? Because then the institutions come in and they say, he just said all Mexicans are rapists. No, he didn't say that. It doesn't matter. The confirmation bias is set in. They're not going to look at any other information. And from there, it's like a snowball. It starts to roll. Within 3 years, they're like, it's literally Hitler. We must steal the election. You're going to create your own hell. You're going to create the circumstances in which a disenfranchised right is angry enough to latch on to someone who actually does have a radical viewpoint. People create their own hell. Just like vaccine lady in New York who wanted unvaccinated children to be removed from school. She created her own hell because now her children have been removed from school because of, oh no, coronavirus. Oh, people. So I wrote Good Bears Always Tell the Truth, Cubs to Bears. And the book starts with Little Bear. He's playing at the park. He's having a blast. He's with all the other animals. He's hanging out with the other animals. Yeah. Say what's up. Say what's up, Little Bear. It's me, Bunny. He's at the park playing with the animals. And they're having a good time. And then Slimy Snake comes along. And Slimy Snake... Oh, thank you. This is my boy, Buddy. Slimy Snake comes along. And he says he has candy, apples, lollipops, everything you could imagine. A bite away. Let's make it happen. Just a bite away. To get it, it comes with, you have to do one thing. You have to do one small thing for Snake to give you that candy. He says, Little Bear, animals, all you have to do is tell one tiny lie. Just tell one tiny lie. And because I can't say where this candy came from, if someone comes around looking for it, tell one tiny lie. And the animals are like, no big deal, right? The animals, they'll say, yeah, Slimy Snake, I'll tell one tiny lie. So they tell their tiny lie. and they get their candy. Well, all of them except for Little Bear. He's like, I don't know about this. Big Bear says to tell the truth. And Little Bear, he leaves the park. And he tells his dad what happened, and his dad says, I'm proud of you. Well, the next day, he goes back to the park. And the snake has some bad news. He said that he had stolen the candy from a guy he knew, and that guy was onto his lie. But that's okay. He'll give them more candy. They can't get caught, so they have to tell one more lie. So they tell another lie. And again, Little Bear leaves the park. He's like, I don't know about this. Big Bear says to tell the truth. The animals tell another lie. Well, the third day, the guy, that slimy snake stole the candy from, there are no little lies. They all turn to big. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when at first we practice to deceive. So the third day, the guy that slimy snake stole the candy from, he shows up at the park and he caught the animals in their lie. And he tells them they better do as he says. Otherwise, he's going to tell on them and they're going to get in a lot of trouble. And the animals and the illustrations in the book are so powerful. There's a big demon, a shadow of a demon behind the animals, and they're crying and they're dropped on their knees. Please don't do this to us. Because they had fallen into a hell on earth of their own creation. But Little Bear, he was good. He was like, I'm fine, I'm out of here. So you turn the page and Little Bear's just skipping through the park, having a blast. He goes home, he tells his dad what happened, and his dad, Big Bear, says he was proud that his little sleuth discovered why good bears always tell the truth. This sales promo has been brought to you by Brett Pike of www.classicallearner.com. classicallearner.com. I have my next Cubs to Bears book coming out this week. I think I'm going to publish it tomorrow on Friday. But then for those of you that have published a book, Amazon has to review it. So it should publish Saturday or Sunday. And then I'll actually be promoting. Like Saturday, Sunday, I'll be on my full promotion. But yeah, I'm very excited about that one. It's to expose the banking system, teach children about fiat currency, fractional reserve banking, and the pitfalls of falling in debt, of taking the loans. And of course, like all my books, the animals fall for it, but the bears don't. And I do a nice little compare and contrast. So anyway, I saw that I ordered just now to support you. Thank you. If you can't see, I bowed. Thank you. I'm really passionate about children's books and really about, I work one-on-one with parents to help them come up with unique education strategies for their children. And I do a lot of really good work with parents, and I'm very passionate about educating the next generation because, all right, you'll get like the news, right? Or even like these political figures, and they'll be like, oh man, we're giving it to the left, we're giving it to the communists, we're giving it to the progressives, we're waking people up, right? Or, I mean, the right too, the right sleeps as well, but like even people in the truth community who are like, oh, we're really gonna wake everyone up, right? Well, they don't ever address their biggest strategic shortcoming, which is, if it's an information war, if it's a battle for the minds of the masses, how can you allow your opposition to control the schooling system? Right? If the objective is to win over enough minds that you can free society, doesn't your primary strategic goal have to be to subvert the current education system? Because otherwise, what's happening is you're always fighting an uphill battle. So you can wake up every 20-year-old, which is hard to do because people are set in their ways and cognitive dissonance. And you could wake up 30-year-olds, and the older people get, the harder it is to show them the world's not as it appears to be. But all while you're doing that, all those efforts, your opposition has control of the children, right? The communists, the socialists, the leftists control the children because these people, the very same people that are like, oh, I'm pushing back against the machine, but you're all sending your children to be taught by these radicals. These people that will teach your children to hate themselves, that will teach them false history, that will teach them false economics, that will teach them inverted morality. They'll teach them Satanism. They won't call it that, but that is what they teach them. Because a person absent morality is naturally going to fall into Satanism, because morality could be broken down into something as simple as say what is true versus say what is false. And as soon as you start to accept lies, well, you've fallen into Satan's realm. Now, we could disagree about what is true and what is false, but you have to believe what you're saying, right? Right? That's like Owen Benjamin's original saying, right? I may be wrong, but I'm not lying. Well, the school system's lying, and we know it. So why would we send our children to it? So you have all these big figures, and no one is setting the objective of subverting and taking back the school system. Well, that's where I come in, Jack. It's an uphill battle, but you know what? The beautiful thing about it is, for me to win, I don't have to win on a mass scale. Every family that goes to my website and signs up for a parent consultation gives me an opportunity to completely and utterly alter a young child's life. Every parent that signs up for a consultation with me gives me the opportunity to restructure the way their children are being educated. And those children, because of that, they won't be educated through the public indoctrination system. They will be pointed in the right direction. I'll talk to their parents about developing real world skills. I'll talk to them about developing critical thinking skills. I talk to them about the right books to read, what to focus on, how to prepare children for entrepreneurialism so that they're not put in a position where they're desperate, right? I used the example the other day. You take someone who goes to Harvard or Yale or Oxford or anywhere they go, and they take on $200,000 in debt for a degree so they could get a job at a big corporation. As soon as they took on that debt, and again, this gets into biblical truths, right? As soon as they agreed to usury, to take that loan, they agreed, hold on one second. As soon as they agreed to take that loan, they, in a way, sold their word. Well, why do I say that? Well, now they have a piece of paper that says they have this skill or that skill, right? That's great. $200,000 in debt, they got to pay that back. Well, maybe something happens that they don't agree with. And maybe their opinion isn't politically correct. But here's the thing. Now, if they state the truth of the matter, they are labeled a thought criminal. And in corporate clown world, right, a thought criminal can't be hired. You're blackballed. So that piece of paper that you paid $200,000 to get is now worthless. And you still own that debt. By the way, can we talk about how beautiful the moon is behind me? I don't know how well you guys could see it, but look at that. You know what I find fascinating? And it's a travesty. People have been so convinced that experts have the world figured out that they don't stop to observe the stars anymore. The sky is beautiful, and if you take some time away from the screens, sit outside on a nice summer night and look up at the sky, you'd be amazed what you see and how beautiful it is. I mean, when you're sitting by a fire and a shooting star goes by, that's what living is. That's what being alive is. That has been taken from us, but we can take it back. One of the big things that parents should teach children is astrology. To know the stars, to know when it's time, know when planting season is. You know, my boy right now is 2. I can't wait till he starts to get a little older. He loves to look at the stars with me. We sit outside, we look at the stars. All right, here's a good story. He must have been, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but somewhere around 1 year old. I don't know, maybe like 14 months. I don't know exactly. But I was in my backyard with my boy. And it was daytime. The sun was out. So I didn't expect anything to be there. But I was throwing him up in the air and we were playing. And I had him in my arms. And he just all of a sudden, he gets so excited. He goes, "A ball!" I'm like, what? I look up, and it was a day moon. It was a full moon, but it was in the day. And he had noticed a ball in the sky. Because a child intrinsically knows to look up. That was a great moment for me. And me and my boy, we still look up all the time. And as he gets bigger, we're going to get a telescope and we're going to learn all about the stars. And we're not going to do Anthony Fauci science. We're going to do our own real world science experiments. And we're going to study the stars and study nature and study the earth and learn how to conquer the world around us. Because so many of us have been taught that other people have conquered the world, liars, that we forget to do it ourselves. But we're going to fix that, people. So you see, if you want to win a culture war, get the minds of the children. I mean, just think about it. If a dictator, if you were working for an authoritarian and he said, "All right, you're my lead propagandist. What do I have to do to win over the minds of the people? Or what do I have to do to make sure that the people are in agreement with what I say?" Well, we could talk about media and we could talk about music and we could talk about culture and Hollywood. But I'd say, dictator, if you want to make sure you have the minds of the people, just take over the education system.